What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Hello, How Are You Today? I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast that's coming out every Monday. My name is Mitch Corbett. I am your host, and I've been really enjoying the conversations I've had with all the guests I've had so far, and I'm really looking forward to what other guests we're going to bring into the episodes. This week is no different. We have one of the guests. They identify as non-binary, Jill Pie or Knick Knack Jack as they go by, and other when they're doing different various things. They are a digital drag artist, a fashion designer, a Jill of all trades, a fashion student, and a parent of two. They have an absolutely crazy story, and by crazy I mean crazy good, because they've been through a lot and they've come out on the other side for the better, and I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. So let's get to it. Here's the conversation with Jill Pie, aka Knick Knack Jack, or Knick Knack Jack, aka Jill Pie. And I hope I said that right. Let's get to the episode. All right, I am here with Knick Knack Jack. Is that correct?
That's right? Correct. Knick Knack Jack.
And we're here to talk about your artistry as well as other things. But I want to discuss that you have some great ears and some great teeth on you right now. So, care to explain this whole look that you have out going on right now, please?
Yeah. Okay. So I am. I really love that there are little things that you can do to modify your appearance to feel more, I guess, comfortable. While I was growing up, I just never really felt comfortable in the way that I was taught to present. I grew up very religious. So now I take every opportunity to look as weird as I can, because in some ways, it actually makes me feel like I fit in more. Because I'm not having that awkward trying to fit in. It's very clear that I don't, and I really embrace it. So I do walk around like this. I actually did in high school as well. I had a pair of vampire teeth, and I just, over the years, my collection has grown. So I have various types of prosthetics that I use, and from fade to hobbit ears to those kind of things, and they just make me feel more comfortable in my own skin.
Well, hey, the more whatever makes you feel comfortable in this interview, more power to you. I wanted to ask your. I see you on Instagram. I found you through Instagram through Gluteus Maximus, Maxi Dare Lieberman. I fell in love with your look and everything. I thought it was awesome. Yeah, I want to try and get Maxi on the podcast, but she's like so shy.
Oh my god!
But I want to get her
Maxi
on there.
Maxi is so humble. Like, she is probably one of the most talented people I have ever met. I was in love with her for a long time. But no, we went to college together, and she was there for me during probably the hardest period of my entire life. So I have nothing but respect for her and love for her. And yeah, you should definitely get her on.
Well, how about this? After this podcast, you can tell her whether or not you had a good time, and then you can tell her like, "Oh, hey, it's okay."
I will.
It's so fun. I'll give you a backstory. Our relationship is like, her and I shared a bus ride a long time ago, and that's where we kind of just talk, and then like, I was like, oh, this girl's wicked. She's so cool. She's a writer. She's creative. I've been trying to get her actually do stand-up comedy for the longest time because I think she's hilarious.
She's so funny. Like, her statuses are hilarious.
Exactly. And then for her, like, we met and we passed by a teddy bear mausoleum thingy on the bus ride from St. Catharines to Hamilton for some reason. And her and I discussed like the idea of like making a movie based off like killer teddy bears or something ridiculous.
That sounds like Maxi.
Yeah. So I've been trying to like write down like a whole like script and everything, but I little by little for the past like almost 10 years I've been trying to write this thing, but I digress.
The writers thing is, yeah, like you've been trying to write something for so long, and I totally get that. But yeah, no, you should definitely still do that because Maxie, like I've worked with plays or on plays with her before, and she's just brilliant. She really is. Like I've read some of her novels that she submitted for publication, and she's one of those people that is just someday someone's going to pick up her books and then she's just going to blow up. I know it. I feel it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I actually I'll show you. I still got her.
Were you there?
Yeah, of course.
I was there. I helped with that. I helped with the casting. I was actually supposed to play the lead, but I couldn't because of where I lived. But my ex actually did the music for that.
Okay. All right. So what I'm showing for listeners is our friend Maxie did a play. Was this for the Hamilton Fringe? I think
it was, and she won.
And
Best
this
in Fringe.
And it was called "This Is Not a Musical" to musical. And so I guess Jill and I went to the first night, and it was really good. I was very entertained. I even took like my friend.
It was so good.
I took my friend Paulina, and she was like, "This is actually really good." Like she'd never been to a theater show or anything. I was like, it was very cool.
Yeah, no, she's been doing Fringe for so long, and like, yeah, she won Best in Fringe with that, and it's so cute and witty and such an incredible concept that she put into words. Like when she first explained it to me, I was like, I don't know how you're gonna do that, but I know it's you, so you can. and she did, and it was incredible.
All right, well, we'll talk about Maxie a little bit more probably on because
I could talk about her forever. So
I know, right? You really could. She is very talented.
Yeah.
But you and yourself are very talented too. Like you're an artist.
you.
Like I love the photographs that you take, and part of that is like, so you grew up in Windsor, we discussed earlier, which
Mhm.
you know is for like I'm gonna say it's probably more conservative than anything, and you identify as non-binary. So is that so? Like, how was that growing up experience, sort of thing?
So I grew up in a very religious home. It's an interesting story. I don't have all the time to get into the entire development of what you see before you today, but I grew up in
I would say evolution, like a Pokemon, like
yeah, exactly. So my family was very religious, and we had some difficulties as a family. My mom was very nomadic, so we actually moved quite a lot. And then we ended up moving up to Huntsville, Muskoka when I was 13, which is a very white, straight cis town, or it was at the time. I know that some people are changing that, but at the time it was more obvious when you didn't fit in. And I I really stuck more with the religion aspect to kind of make, I don't know, make myself obsolete, if that makes sense.
To kind of like
I was
hide behind the shadows, I guess maybe would be
exactly. Better. I mean, I was like the emo kid at my school. And then it kind of drastically changed. I met some people who I did really love, but it kind of led me down a really toxic road, and I became ultra conservative. And it's a long story, but I kind of joined a cult and ended up moving to Alaska, where I was indoctrinated into very religious.
So was your real life the basis for Midsummer or something? Or is that
pretty much? I was very misguided, and I've always really did have a heart for people in general. My mom was an HIV prevention worker, and I saw her making a difference around her, and I think I had a skewed idea of how to do that, and I pursued that. And then when I was about 19, I moved back to around this area, like in Kitchener, to go to college, and everything kind of hit me where I was like, oh, the world isn't the way that I thought it was. And I mean, I knew that I was queer, like I knew, and I had confided in a couple of people who exploited that. And so that kind of made me more afraid to say anything. I had people in my church threatening to out me and stuff like that. So it was pretty difficult. I was in love with a person in high school who I was told, you can't be in love with that person and you can't hang out with that person because, they're not Christian, and that that relationship would be wrong and stuff like that. So there was a lot of those voices in my head that I had to come to terms with. And it wasn't until I was about 25 where it really hit a brick wall. And I was like, okay, are you going to be able to maintain this facade of being somebody that you're not, or are you just going to full on chaotically pursue your true identity? And I did, and it was a downward spiral, but it turned out decent.
Well, okay, so let's.
I know it's very vague.
Yeah, no, let's kind of like peel those layers off a little bit, shall we? So you joined a cult and went to Alaska. Now, for me, Alaska is this place that's full of beauty, nature. It's where a lot of people go to like kind of find themselves. So like, was that like a therapeutic
spot? Did the opposite.
For you? Opposite, really?
It was to get rid of myself. It was,
okay.
I was in an ultra conservative, like I was a woman there, and I wasn't allowed to wear clothes that showed off any of my figure to like, that would cause men to sin. I was
those damn sinners, those men were
those sinners. Yeah, no, like I was isolated. I wasn't allowed to have communication with my family, or if I was, it was very like minimal, and I wasn't allowed to leave the base without like supervision. And it was very much conversion therapy. So yeah, it didn't work.
And so then you go to college where you meet Maxie, and you kind of realize that there's more to life. Like, so like I think it's strange. Like, so it seems kind of like you spent your entire life almost in high school until you're 25. Because like, just from my own experiences, like living in a small town, growing in a small town, you think, oh, this is how life is, blah blah blah, and then you go to college. And this is why I encourage every young person to either go to college or travel, because like then you realize how big the world actually is. Like, because when I went to college, I met people that liked professional wrestling, that liked comedy, that liked all these weird things that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
That didn't, where I didn't find these people where I grew up from, sort of things. So
that's a really good point. So I remember this very specific thing in high school. Somebody had broken into my locker and had stolen one of my lesbian mangas. And
oh no, which one was it?
I don't even remember. I think it was Nana.
So all right, so I'll give you a little side note. My wife is a huge manga fan, but she loves only gay manga, like boy on boy.
Yeah, because it's fantastic.
She only likes boy on boy stuff.
But no, someone took it, and my mom didn't know about that kind of stuff. It was given to me by some friends who were very supportive of who I was at the time, who I had confided in. But it went around one of my classrooms, and I was branded the D word. So it was it was traumatic for me. And then I remembered later on, in my later 20s, I was like, oh, I really liked that. I forgot that. So one of my friends who was on the conservative side had actually made me burn all of my manga, all of my anime merchandise, had made me burn anything that wasn't a religious text. All of my favorite movies, which was Interview with the Vampire, which is like
that's a classic. That's a good movie. That
is like so good, really and it was very queer, which was why we had to burn it. And I bought all that stuff back.
Yeah, well, as you should. I mean, you're an adult. You can make adult decisions, like buying everything that was burned when you were younger.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I did have to wrestle with my own like bigotry and my own things inside of me that told me I wasn't allowed. And now I just let myself do what I want pretty much, like within respectful boundaries of other people, but I don't limit myself. So now I'm like, yeah, I will walk around looking like a goblin because I can, and I want to.
So I want to kind of like, I've lost my train of thought. I know I want to go somewhere with this conversation. So you're like ultra conservative, and then you kind of like find yourself. I kind of want to like talk about sex in a sense, because like I feel like you have this, you may have this like different take on it, and in the sense that like you've had so many probably different first time sexual experiences. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
So like how liberating were those experiences as you evolved?
So here, oh, sorry, my cat just opened the door. One sec. I'm gonna close the door
my
because
cat's
this is a
sleeping in
more
the
adult
closet.
conversation.
Hide your ears, cat.
Kickflip is like my best friend, and she doesn't like being anywhere not near me. But at the same time, I was afraid she would come in and. Like,
my cat's sleeping in the closet right now, so
oh.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah, she's checking on me. But so the thing is because I was ultra conservative, I actually did not have sex until my wedding night to my first marriage, which was 19.
Jesus, too young.
It's too young, and
in my opinion,
it was.
People might disagree, but in my opinion, I think 19 is too young.
I don't disagree, and the way that it happened, it left us both very scarred, and I mean, I hate him for certain reasons, but I also have a lot of other respect for him. And we were young and we didn't understand. And we were like, I thought that I was part of his world, that conservative Christian world, but I didn't fit there. And we just weren't the same kind of people. But as far as sex goes, it was like on our wedding night. And it was the night after the wedding night. And it was very traumatic for me. And we decided not to for a while because I had such a hard time. We weren't allowed to educate ourselves. We weren't allowed to read about it. We didn't know anything. We didn't know that you needed lube or that you should probably, like, I mean, birth control wasn't a thing for us. And it was just like, you go in and you do it, but no one explained how. And like, to me, I do believe that personally now that certain people mix better sexually together than other people, and that certain parts don't always go together like we may have traditionally thought.
Well, I mean, that's to your point. I mean, that's why, like, when people like, oh, I've only been with one person my entire life, it's like I feel kind of sad because it's like you don't it's like there's so many other puzzle pieces that connect.
Do it. Like if you've only eaten one type of food and you're like, yes, I like this food, but then you don't know that there's other flavors. And I've heard other people be like, well, I don't need other flavors, but it's like, but there's like, have you had ice cream? Because like it's really good.
Yeah. And have you had ice cream that isn't just vanilla ice cream? Have you tried cream? Have you tried Rolo? Have you tried strawberry milkshake? Have you tried cookie dough with chocolate chip s'more stuff on it, sort of thing?
Exactly. And I'm not knocking the people who prefer a more simple approach to life. Maybe they just don't, it's overwhelming to them to have more. I can't make any judgments, but I know personally that wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And
we can only speak to our own experiences and what works for us. The people that, spout that sort of dribble as if it's gospel are people that are, bad people in the world, sort of. And we're not trying to do that. Like, I know one of my friends' parents have been together since high school, and they're the only person, and they're lovely and just beautiful people. And so, and it works. Sometimes it works.
Some people are very happy that way. I
Yeah.
wasn't. And I did have conversations with him about, like feeling the waters, like, oh, haha, what would you think if I had a penis? And then he'd be like, I wouldn't like you anymore. I'm like, okay, all right. What would you feel like if I had a beard? And he was like, no, I like women. I'm like, okay.
So in speaks that like that relationship is obviously over.
Yeah.
Do you guys still keep in touch? Like, has
No.
he grown from that? No, okay. That's a big old no on that kind of thing.
I mean, we tried. We
Yeah.
did try to maintain a friendship. There were some very severe traumas there for us. We had lost several pregnancies, which it had turned me kind of cold towards him because of how he reacted. And I didn't think at the time I judged the way he grieved. I don't so much anymore, but to me, I thought it was very isolating. And we also had experienced a betrayal of a friendship that it's complicated, but essentially someone who was very close to us ended up assaulting me, and it was someone from the church, and it was a big rift between the two of us because it was someone that they had known their whole life, and the church really took sides, and it wasn't my side. And
That's because you're a female.
Yeah, well,
or identified as a female back then.
At the time.
Yeah.
That's what they thought. So we had a lot of struggles. And after 5 years, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it was very hard for me because everything was wrapped up in that community. All of my supports, all of my friendships, and I lost everything. I ended up homeless. I lived in a shelter for a while. I attempted suicide. Sorry, I should have put a trigger warning there.
It's okay.
Several times, and ended up in the hospital. I was not speaking to my family. It was a very, very hard time for me. And then on the subject of sex, I was just like smorgasbord. Like I was in full, it was a destructive path for sure, but I was free. So everybody was fair game. Anybody. It was, it was like a solid year of that.
It was as if it was like the musical or that song, It's Raining Men, but it's just raining sex. It's just coming down from all sorts of fucking places.
Exactly. And it was a free for all. And it was just like, in some ways I don't regret it. And I was safe for the most part. I did make some risks, but they're fine.
So it seems it's important. It's important to have these kinds of conversations because, like, I don't have that life experience, and I enjoy talking to people that do have, like, have gone through the shit, like you have yourself. So kind of talk me through like how you got out of all of that lifestyle and how you've become this wonderful human being that I see before me right now.
Stripping. So to get out of homelessness and to get back on my feet, I became a stripper, and it was the best thing I ever did for myself. And not everybody knows this, so
no one listens to this podcast anyways, don't worry. It's only
no, but I did that, and I was able to afford my own apartment. I was really skinny at the time because I was not eating for days at a time, and it was very hard to start out because I had nothing, and you had to like pay for your time to be on stage. You had to tip the security, and you had to, like, I live far away from it, so I had to take a bus.
It sounds like it's like working in a kitchen, tip out and everything like that.
Yeah. So to start out, and you have to buy boots and costumes and things like that. So I was living very incredibly frugally, and I was practicing like every day and doing what I could to stay there. And that's I didn't even do it for that long, but it was enough to get back on my feet. And I did some like cam work and stuff, and then I just kind of saved up everything I could, and I was able to get my own apartment, which is its own story as well, because at the time, one of my friends, who was still a friend of mine from the church, who is now with my ex, helped me find an apartment. And it was a whole thing because I had moved in with this couple and there was jealousy involved. So I had to get my own apartment. And anyway, I know my story is like, I
No,
can
it's
see it
fine.
in
It's
my
fine.
head.
I'm all ears right now. I'm just listening. Fucking go on.
But yeah, and so I was working at a club, and I was talking. I wasn't like really ready to date. It was very much just like disposable one nights. Um, and I just wasn't. I was slowly building myself back up, and I was in
Yeah.
counseling. I took CBT. I really did want to build.
Which, you know, to your point, like, I don't know anything about recovery, but for me, it seems like when you're on the path of recovery, it's never like oh, I'm better now. It's these slow, you know, baby step process. So maybe, yeah, keep on going. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I knew that I couldn't build from nothing, and I needed skills that I hadn't learned yet. And the world to me was still new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't understand the way things worked. Sometimes I have to ask my spouse, like,
it's so weird that you kind of sound like that show Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt almost.
I relate to her so much. Cause like I was like, what is this? Because it's nothing like what I thought it was. It was mind-blowing to me. The world, it's like it changed color, like, and I didn't understand how things worked. I don't know, like, my father was not very religious and he really tried to teach me, and my mom did in her own way, I guess, but she is very like wildernessy. She just wants to live alone, secluded, nothing to do with government, like forager. And my dad is a government worker who is, you know, worked every day of his life. And he was like, you need to like save money and go to the bank and stuff like that. And then I was in this community that was like, no, give all your money to the church. You're supposed to be poor. Like, so I was very confused. And I always have worked. I moved around a lot, so it was different things. And now I was like, okay, well, I obviously don't know how to do this, so I need to go to a therapist or a counselor who can help me figure out what are my first steps, because I'm clearly not functional in society. So I talked to a counselor, and I was in CBT, which was a whole process because you do have to.
What is CBT? Sorry.
Oh, cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
It's basically training your mind to think differently, and it's very helpful for people with personality disorders or traumatic events, because your brain has these little pathways. The more something happens, the deeper the pathway, and that's going to be your first instinct in reaction to what happens around you. And you kind of have to build new pathways and then practice them so they become deeper than your old patterns. And I had to do that, like, especially with money, because I was not in control of my own money when I was in my previous relationship. I didn't have a bank account. It was, he was the head of the house. So all the decisions of everything we did were his. And then my whole life, I was like, it opened up, and I was like, this is all your responsibility now. And I was like, what? I never had a credit card.
You're exactly like Ricky Bobby and I don't know what to do with my hands. You're giving all this like you're given all this freedom, but no one's ever taught you like how to use your freedom correctly or like responsibly or anything.
Yeah. And I made a lot of mistakes, like with it because I didn't know, and I think I'm so mad at the school system for not teaching us budgeting or taxes or, things like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a whole realm of financial responsibility that my generation very specifically, and people who come from my background as well, are just completely unawares of. And
Yeah, and I mean, to further that, I mean, like when you're young, you also don't like when you're being taught in school, you're being taught one way, and then when my parents personally tried to teach me financial responsibility, I kind of ignored it, and it's a huge regret in my personal life sort of thing. So I agree, like it should be taught in schools. There's many things that should be got taught in our school systems currently that are not taught. So we could save that conversation for another day.
Exactly. But sex
So
work was that way. I'm just going to finish there. Sex work was my way to kind of rebuild that as fast as I could. And a lot of people I talked to, helped them get through college. It helped them build their lives like the foundationally, because it is quicker money. It is hard work, which I don't think people realize. But at the time, I didn't have anything else. And that was my primary focus, was to get myself out of poverty. So that's what I did.
it's funny, like so many people have started like doing those OnlyFans pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like making good money from those things. And like I see
Yeah.
people like, comments like, oh, it's wrong. Or like there's a story in Newfoundland where someone had a mother had her OnlyFans posted a sticker on her car, and someone commented, and it's like, hey man, if she needs to do that to make money, that's what she likes to do. I mean, you can't tell people they can't make money the way they want to make money. They I think now
Yeah.
more than ever, you have to allow people to like try and have fun and do stuff, because I mean, mental
Well,
health
it's
is
also
so important.
massively hypocritical.
Yeah.
Like, it's massively hypocritical because sex work is like, you wouldn't expect it, but it's in a lot of different, like, a lot of our favorite movies have, dancing or like pole work. Even like, I mean, when someone's like, oh, she has my OnlyFans, I'm like, do you watch porn? Like, shut up. You're a hypocrite. Like, sex work is completely valid work. It's not, I don't know why people think that they can disregard something that is so, or disrespect something that is so inherently human. Like,
Yeah.
people crave intimacy. And the fact that you can go to the grocery store and buy food, but you think that it's dirty to pay for sex, like, come on, it's a need. Like,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, it's a need. So just leave it alone.
So you mentioned dancing, stripping. I know that it's probably one of the most athletic and difficult things that someone can do, like male or female. Um, so how like from being homelessness to being a stripper, like I mean, that's a very strong physical toll on one's body. How did you develop those skills?
Well, I was very lucky because my club had lessons and you could come early to practice on the poles. So I did. And I was there like every day at 4:30 and just practiced, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos.
And so like when you see that that physical change in yourself, and you see that your confidence growing, obviously, because I feel like your confidence probably grew exponentially from being able to perform. Did that help you make that transition into like, that spot where you are 25 and going to college?
Well, like, I mean, it was after that.
Okay.
It was significantly after that. This was like, I was 26,
Okay.
27. It was after, yeah. Like, I'm 28 now. So it wasn't long ago. Actually, I think I was 26. Sometimes it all blends together, but
Well, this kind of like this conversation's all kind of blended. I thought we were going chronologically.
no, I'm not a chronological person. To me, my mind is mushrooms.
Okay.
Everything is like interconnected, And I have a hard time sometimes explaining that. And then people look at me like, I don't know where you're going with this. And I'm like, well, why can't you see into my mind? I don't understand.
All right. So
I
you went to
lost my
college.
husband. I was
Yeah.
homeless. I became a stripper to get out of that.
Okay.
And then,
But all right. So let's talk about the now. Let's talk about
yeah.
you are an artist. You do crafts. How has art benefited you mentally or physically or any sort of way?
Yeah. So I've been an artist my whole life. When I was little, I used to put on plays for my trailer park. I would get all the neighborhood kids involved and I would write them scripts and make them costumes and we would perform. I was in theater my whole life. It was my outlet to be able to dress up without judgment, minor judgment. Some of my family members were like, why are you like a boy all the time on stage? I'm like, I don't know. They just put me there. But no, I have been a writer for a long time. I started writing poetry when I was about 7, and I started sewing around the same time. And my mom taught me how to sew. My first thing I sewed was a pillow for my new baby sister, and ever since then I started working on my own clothes, and just like slowly learning, I guess, learning how to put buttons on. I made a lot of sock monkeys. That kind of evolved more into bigger outfits. I'm in fashion design now, actually, but that's something I always wanted to pursue. I was supposed to pursue that out of high school, but then chose, called. But
I was gonna say it. I'm glad you did. I was gonna be like, you chose cult.
I did. Yeah, no, I did. But art's always been a huge part of my life. And I actually published my first book when I was 23.
Okay,
I
what's the
had
book?
It's called Treetop Dreams. It's a children's book that I was the author and co-illustrator for. And that for me was a huge accomplishment. I did it in a very deep bout of depression. It was originally a poem for my mother. And it just kind of expanded, and then it was a book. I worked on publishing it. I had left my ex-husband the first time, and so I had like a lull in my life, and that's what I was working on. And then from there, I was like, well, I would really like to try and do a comic. So then I started really like looking into comics, reading comics. My favorite is Skin and Earth by Lights, who is a Canadian musician
I
and
love her.
author.
She's so talented.
She has had a very big influence in me. And from comics came cosplay. And I was like, oh, what's this? And I've heard of cosplay before in high school because the person that I was in love with was really into it, but it was a no-no for me, not allowed to do that. So then I was like, wow, I'm allowed to do this now. So then I started about a year ago, a year and a half ago, working more on cosplay. And then from cosplay, looking up cosplay, I saw drag. And I was like, oh, I like that. And so one thing just kind of led me to another, like rabbit holes, and things that were connected. Again, art is very universal. I was talking to my spouse about this too. Like, if you think about architecture or cars, like someone had to draw it, someone had to think of it, someone had to write it down. Like, it's all, I do believe a lot of everything stems from art. And it's weird to me when people think we can live without it, because it's very much a core of how we function as humans. And it just kind of, it's hard to put into words because it wasn't really a cognitive thought. But I was just like, you know what? I have always loved performance. And I'm going to try this. And so my first real drag show was in October of last year, where I was dressed as Damon Salvatore, and I did a Pretty Reckless lip sync.
Oh, nice.
And
One of my good friends, her favorite band is Pretty Reckless.
how can you not like Taylor Momsen?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's what she says too.
ah. But yeah, so and I started making friends in the community, and it just kind of blossomed from there, and I've just gotten weirder since. Like it
So
just
with that show, did you perform and create your own costume, or was it?
hmm.
Okay, cool. So like what? So like when you're leading up, when you get this idea of like, oh, you're going to perform and you're going to design your first costume for the first time,
Mhm.
what are the nerves and what are the excitement like that first time?
So I don't think I operate the same way as other people.
No,
Um
you don't say.
I am a jumper.
Okay.
I just jump right into it. I don't really feel fear anymore.
Well, I think yeah, you've been through enough that I think that that might not like maybe from a plane, but just
Nah,
like normal like tendency like going on stage, probably not a big deal for you.
it, it's interesting because if I'm not dressed up, then there is a sense of vulnerability for me. But if I am dressed up, I don't care.
So
um,
it's
I didn't make that costume from scratch. I more designed what I wanted and thrifted parts of it. I did make some of it from scratch, but most of the time when I design, I try to use upcycling because again, I don't have endless resources. Um, One of the things that happened was I met my partner and he has two kids. He was a single dad. So I also jumped right in and was like, I'll raise your babies. So now I now I have two kids. And I'm a full-time stay-at-home parent right now and will be going back to work in September. And through that, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to fashion school online so that, when this period of time is done, I have something that I really am looking forward to going to. Um, so that first show, it was more I mean, I did have nerves in the sense that I didn't really know what I was doing and I wasn't quite sure. I was like, okay, I'm a drag king, like I'll dress like a man. And then since then, I've developed into I'm going to dress like how I want. And if anyone has a problem with that, like, I don't care. Because I did get some people who are like, oh, you're a soft boy, or, you're not actually a drag king. And I'm like, no, you're right. I'm not. I'm a thing. I'm just a thing.
I'm a thing. I love it.
And I'm a drag thing and I am totally owning that now. And I think it is just like you said, baby steps and everything leads to another and it's a new paradigm shift. It's a new thing. And after that show, and people were like, wow, you're good at that. Like the people that I trust, like, oh, I didn't know that, you could combine all the things that you're good at into one thing. And I was like, I didn't know either. So it's been going from there, and I did a drag show not long ago that was pirate themed, and I owned it. That was my element. I had 5 costume changes. I was a siren, I was a pirate, I was a maiden, and that's very much a core of who I am. I'm like, there's so many elements and parts to me, so be able to show that and to express it was just that was a whole new thing to me.
Okay, so here's a fun question for you.
Yeah,
Uh, Pirates and Penzance.
I don't know what that is.
No? Oh no.
I'm sorry.
You're such a theater buff. And like you love pirates.
I
It's one
know
of the
you.
best musicals that you could ever see in person.
I okay. So I, in the sense that I've heard it in passing,
Okay.
but I
You
don't
should,
know.
if you can go out of your way when stuff opens up in Ontario and find a Pirates and Penzance production, I think you'll fall in love with it. It's a musical, it's pirates, I saw it when I was very young at Stratford Festival, and it was like
Oh,
so amazing, so awesome. So,
I've been to Stratford Festival. I've seen so many shows there.
all
It
right. So,
is.
yeah, me too. What's your favorite that you saw?
Oh, um, there's so many. I saw the Hunchback,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was really special. I was young and I was like, this is a sad story. And I really liked that because I guess I just relate to tragedy. But I also really liked Narnia, just because I know that it's a very religiously influenced series, but I also saw a lot of myself in some of the characters, and the way that they put it on stage was amazing. And you know how Stratford has like little museums that are dedicated to the shows that are happening? They
Yeah.
have like, you can go into the museums and it's like all these things about Narnia. And there was four thrones set up, and I was like, oh, I'm the fucking king. I put the crown on and I was just like, yes, King of Narnia.
um, so theater's a huge thing. You're doing costume design now, or not costume, but like fashion design.
Yeah. I
And
want to go into costume, but I also want to do non-binary lingerie,
and that stuff
or
will
like
eventually
gender fluid lingerie.
like you're still like, we're still young. There's still plenty of time for all these things to happen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's
I
cool
got so much I want to do.
yeah. And I think it's cool
Sorry.
that you know you're a mother now as well, and you have like
Mm.
these two little things that are probably like great fashion models. So how much fun do you have with that?
So much fun. One is 9 and loves every time I'm sketching, she's right there, like under my table, like, that looks great. That looks great. What are you
That
gonna
can't
do
be
next?
good for her neck, though. It's like
It's not.
maybe get her a
It's
stool
not.
so she can look over your shoulder.
She is so interested. She's always like, so this week is actually, we're doing like a fairy themed week to celebrate that she did such a good job in school. So I dressed them up like fairies, and we went into the park and they played fairies and they had wings and
Oh, that
wands
sounds
and
wonderful. That sounds really
yeah.
wonderful.
So definitely, like, my 9-year-old is full of magic and everything to her. Like last year I dressed her up as a mermaid. She wanted to be a tiger. Like, for me to be able to kind of make her dreams come true as somebody who understands that kind of stuff, because I don't think every adult does, and understand that kind of imagination and that kind of like wonder. So it's a very special experience for me to be able to understand to an extent, and to kind of foster that in her and be able to help her express those kind of things for her. So me and her really connect on that level, and it's always dress up day here. Like, if they want to go out in princess dresses, I'm not going to stop them. You know, they have access to my costume box anytime, and they have their own. So the other one is 3, and she's a little more hoity-toity. She's a little more delicate, and she doesn't really like costumes on her.
Yet, I mean, 3.
Yet. But if she doesn't, I will respect that. Not everybody's into
I feel
it.
like a 3-year-old probably doesn't like anything on them, sort of thing.
No, she would much rather just run around naked. But that's, yeah, she does ask me. Oftentimes, like the pictures that you see on Instagram, they take me 2 to 5, sometimes 7 hours to put together a look. So I'm often half in drag or half in costume when I'm taking care of my kids. Like making chicken nuggets, like with a baby on my, side with half makeup, and they ask questions. They're like, "Oh, what are you today? Are you a cat?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not a cat. I'm a wolf today." And and it's very open, and they also are incredible with pronouns. Like when I'm in drag, they call me drag. And when they use he, them, and it has taken some time because it's not super common yet, and it's not super taught in schools. But I mean, and within the appropriate understanding of things, I think sometimes people think that sex and gender are are always together, and they're like, don't sexualize the children. And it's like, okay, well, that's not accurate at all. And some people have talked to me about like, do you think that's okay for you to be doing that? And I'm like, yes, I do, because it means that they're going to see that it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand what your question is.
So, like, with all of that life experience that you do have, do you feel like that's better prepared you for motherhood in terms of like being able to identify with their struggles that they might have as they grow older?
100%. I mean, I grew up in a split family, and we have a complicated dynamic here as well. And I think I can relate to them more on that, remembering of being that child. And my daughter does have ADHD, and I do too. So I know kind of, at least I wouldn't say I know, but I have insight into what might be better for her as to what might work more behaviorally. Now, I'm not perfect in any way. I make my own mistakes, and I'm sure they're going to be like, you used to do this, and like, I hated it. And I'm prepared for that to an extent. Teenage years are going to be something else, but
Oh yeah, as they always are. It's fascinating though. As you grow older, you just like you realize how insignificant high school really was in your grand scheme of life experiences.
it is to an extent, but I think that's the place where you start realizing that you are a human. Like, you are going somewhere, because when you're a kid, you just have no concept of time or of responsibility, and then you're in high school and you're like, huh?
I see, like, I would agree with that to an extent, but I feel like you really don't find yourself until you leave the nest, right? Like, until you had to do your own laundry and cook your own meals. Like, a part of me was like, I need to go away from, as far away from King Cardin as I possibly can within realm. And so I went to Niagara Falls, like 3.5 hours away. There's no going back every weekend to get the
Oh yeah.
laundry done, sort of thing, right? So, and
Well,
like, and you mentioned how like high school is like where you start to grow and everything, but it's also like one of those places where like anytime you show any sort of difference or growth or like as a human, there are so many narratives that just like, no, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, blah blah blah. So like, it's very like my idea of high school and education system is a very skewed right now in my.
and that's totally fair, and that's where you're at, and I think that's valid. I've always had to be very independent, so laundry and cooking and dishes wasn't really a strange thing to me. But I get that's a different experience.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned laundry. Like yesterday, like my Saturday was just like I got stoned. I did laundry. I watched some Kill Tony. I did 2 podcasts, and then I went to bed at 9 p.m. and I woke up at 9 a.m. and I feel so great. I'm like, I'm winning an adult life right now.
You are. That's fantastic. It's different too. Like, I don't know if you ever plan to have children, but the laundry never ends. You do have one, or you are planning to have one?
So the wife and I want to go to one more big vacation before we go for a kid, and we're gonna try and go to Japan.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, that's one of our favorite places, and I've never been there. And I love professional wrestling. I don't know if you can see the belt behind me.
I see. I like your background.
Thank you so much. So I know there's a big wrestling scene there. I know there's a big anime, manga scene there. So like, those are all of our interests, and it's beautiful there. So we're hoping in 2022 we can get down to Japan and then maybe have a baby.
Who knows? Like, maybe in Japan, that's where it'll happen.
Oh yeah, lots of sake for sure. We're definitely gonna make that a thing.
Yeah. No, honestly though, it's a really good. I think it's very smart to plan for family, and to plan to have those moments beforehand, because your life's not yours anymore when you're a parent. It's not. You're the last priority.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because like I'm a comedian as well, and like I've been trying to think of this idea of how do I identify with parents, and like because the whole narrative of a parent is that, oh, you single people don't understand what it's like, and I'm like, that's not true. I see you at the grocery store and you all look exhausted as shit. So like I identify with that sort of thing.
And
Like,
I will say it is a different, but I mean, I don't think you can ever really say that someone doesn't know what
yeah.
exhaustion feels like because you don't know what's exhausting to them. My
Mm.
spouse thrives in parenthood, thrives in it. He doesn't, it's like he was born for it and there's no challenges for him. It's just, his personality is so well suited to it. And for me, it's definitely more difficult to go for without sleep. But I don't think that the parent experience is the same for everybody. And to say like, oh, you don't know how tired we are. Like, well, if you've ever worked nights, you know what tired is, or like shift work. Like,
Yeah, man. I mean, this has been a recurring theme on podcasts, but I referenced my life working on cruise ships, which was like 10 hours a day, no days off,
yeah,
6 months straight. Like, I'm, it's life in general is exhausting, and
it
we add
is.
on to it, sort of thing.
It is. And you make it work. Like you make it work.
Yeah.
You work with the exhaustion. You find times to replenish yourself. And if you have a good relationship with your partner and you're able to communicate like, hey, can I sleep in today? Or like, can we figure out a time where it's just the two of us or whatever? Like, I think that it's a very doable thing. I know, and you shouldn't compare people's experiences to, because you don't know the whole story and you don't know the whole
Well, as
dynamic.
my job as a comedian, I have to kind of have a little bit of comparison just to poke fun at people,
I
sort of
mean,
thing.
but that's the farce of it, right?
Yeah,
Like that is the farce of
exactly.
it, and you can do that in. I mean, there is a place for everything.
Yeah.
I don't live in absolutes.
Yeah. No, yeah, I would assume you of all people would not live in
Uh-uh.
absolutes.
No
so I
rules.
so we talked about parenthood for a little bit. We've talked about your struggles in your past and everything. So let's talk about some fun stuff. You mentioned
Yay.
cosplay. You mentioned manga.
Uh-huh.
What do you have, like a favorite anime? Do you have a favorite costume that you've ever done with cosplay, or do you have a favorite like festival that you go to for cosplay?
So, okay, so a lot of my discovery of love for cosplay and drag has happened in quarantine. So I haven't been able to go to many cons or anything throughout my life. I want to.
Okay.
um, and again, like as a kid, I wasn't in high school or a teenager, I wasn't allowed to. So I haven't really had those experiences yet, and I'm looking forward to when I can.
So is this something that you like with cosplaying that seems like you something you want to do? Is this something that you like? It feels like it's a perfect opportunity for you to not only cosplay and get that self uh uh losing my train of thought again, that's sort of like glory of doing your, but at the same time I think it's a perfect opportunity for you and your family to do like something as like a family costume. Is that something that you may want to do?
Yeah. So I have super like fixation. So when you ask me what my favorite anime is and stuff, I've watched a significant. I mean, my favorite is Yuri on Ice.
That's my wife's. God damn it, you guys will get along so well.
It's just so
that
gay.
moment that
Love
moment where
it.
that one moment where they kiss, she's like,
Every time I cry, I don't know. I've seen it so often, and it's just so beautiful. And it's just, I don't know. I used to also watch ice skating. I used to ice skate actually as a kid. Like my brother was in hockey and I was in ice skating. So I was just like, oh, ice skating anime, and like I used to watch it on the Olympics and stuff. And then I was like, but make it gay, okay. I love it. So I watched that 10 billion times. But when you're talking about the kids and dressing them up, our go-to for Halloween, we're very Halloween oriented family.
same.
And um we love Over the Garden Wall. It's an old Cartoon Network. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I feel like I like as soon as you said it, like I have some sort of recollection, but not a strong one.
So all the episodes are on the Cartoon Network. If you look it up, they're only 10-minute episodes. It was a small series. It actually stars Elijah Wood, and it's a very actually Maxie showed me this. and it is a very gorgeous animation about it's hard to say without giving it away, but it's very much like a kid exploring his own I don't know, like his place in the world.
How old is the series? If it's within,
It's young.
So it's newer.
Oh, sorry. It's like they're younger kids, but no, it's like it's probably early 2000s, I would
Oh,
say.
you can tell us about it. It's fine. We
Yeah.
can spoil it. It's okay.
No,
it's past the spoiler date.
It's like they're in like a purgatory, essentially.
Okay.
And you kind of just go on this journey with them as to why. And there's other characters there who have their own reasons for being there, and it's an incredible animation, and our family loves it. It has an incredible soundtrack by the Blasting Company. They actually just released 6 more songs this year from it that they never released from production. It's very like old timey, and
it looks like it's got like plushies and everything too.
Yeah, it's got a cult following for sure, and a lot of people found it very helpful in explaining like death and life, and we just love it. So my spouse and I have talked about potentially going at, like, the costumes are adorable, and they'd be very doable for me to create. So that's something that I would love to go as a con, or to a con with the family dressed like that. And yeah.
So if I can make any recommendation for you, Anime North is a fantastic experience.
Very good things.
It's not just anime, it's comics, it's there's professional wrestling there. That's how I got to go the first time. It is such a wonderful experience. And I remember specifically going and just like taking photographs of everyone and everything. I have like a whole Facebook post about it. And then I was with my there was another wrestler there, and there's like, oh, I'm just here to wrestle. I'm like, how do you not find this such a cool place to be right now? And
yeah,
I feel like if you're looking for a place to start, I think Anime North it's such a wonderful experience, and I highly recommend you do that one. That would be the great one.
I've heard good things, and I take that recommendation seriously. I want to go there. I've been to a couple of drag shows actually, and I would love to go to some more of those as well, bigger ones. I have my eye on some Comic-Cons that are like, we watched WandaVision, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I don't generally like Marvel, and that everyone's gonna hate me now. Because I just don't.
You're not really a nerd. How can you say?
No, I know, right? Wow. But I just don't relate to the characters. To me, they're so straight. Like, I'm sure somebody relates to them in some way, but to me, they just seem like vapid. I just never really got into it. I shouldn't make judgments.
So like, I'll tell you this. So like, the strategy that they're doing is they first identify, they brought the Marvel universe with like the people that, you know, everyone knows, right? Yeah. And now with this new phase with WandaVision and all that, they are venturing into like the elements where like they are going to explore like the weirder, more eccentric characters and everything. So that's that's
what I want.
I think you might be ready to step on the Marvel train and be like, oh, yeah, they're doing it more to my liking, sort of thing.
My partner's tried. Like, he's really tried to
what is he showing you to get you into this sort of thing?
So we did watch like the chronological, like 19 of them or 27, whatever.
It's not how you get someone who doesn't like you to do it. You gotta start off with Guardians of the Galaxy or like Thor Ragnarok, like something that's so powerful.
I was like, oh, I don't even remember what the first one was. If it was like the first Captain America or something, I was like, this is boring. The
first one would be Iron Man from 2000.
Oh, Iron Man. Okay, so Iron Man, I was just like, the first one, I was like, I hate this. Like, this is corporation bullshit. I don't like it at all. And then we watched, you know, like that war one, Captain America. I hate war movies because I don't agree with it. I'm like, you know, it just makes me uncomfortable. So I was just like, oh, this is boring and not interesting to me. And there were a couple that did stand out to me. I love Black Panther. Um, I thought that was super well done and interesting. Um, Thor Ragnarok, I mean, it was fun.
It's one of my favorite comedies. Like as a comedy, if like someone that loves comedies, I'm like, there's so many good fucking jokes in that fucking
It's
movie.
really good. It's well written. I okay, so here's the thing. I love Into the Spider-Verse.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't like the Spider-Man live actions at all.
Are you saying
Um,
like that for like all of them, or like have you tried the Tom Holland ones?
I've watched all the Tobey Maguire ones, all of the Andrew Garfield ones, or all two of them, and then the Tom Holland, and I just don't like it. And I feel so bad. I feel like a bad nerd.
Do you, just wait until they do the multiverse Spider-Man, where it's where they're bringing Garfield and all those guys back for like a multiverse one. They're
And you
gonna
know,
do. They're doing Spider into the Verse live action, which to be determined how that will work out, shall we?
just I guess I just never really formed an emotional connection with anybody.
I mean, you can identify with a nerdy white boy that shoots webs from his fingers and tries to
Not
get the
really.
white redhead girl to fall in love with him. So
No,
that doesn't identify with you.
doesn't do it for me. Uh, and like
Big
I think
shocker.
with I think with WandaVision, that was a turning point for me. That Marvel, like Black Panther, definitely was emotional, and but again, not as much of a relation to it. And I think that is something definitely for me that um, if something like for when I watched The Lord of the Rings, now that
Mm,
was an obsession for me.
yeah.
That was like, these are people I understood. I don't
So,
understand Marvel characters, but with
so
WandaVision, with the oh,
no, I want to
sorry.
go back. I mean, a little bit. Like you're starting to now identify the characters and in film and TV. Were you not allowed to watch or read anything back? No, fuck. Jesus Christ. I
I
can't.
wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter or watch Harry Potter. My mom was very adamant as to an age for Lord of the Rings. I was 13 when I first was allowed to read them. And when I was in high school, she did give me more freedom, mostly because I wouldn't let her not. And I did stumble on some things that were not. So I stumbled upon the Sookie Stackhouse novels, which are True Blood series, which I hid and read at school. She found my novels, confiscated them, and then she bought the rest because she had read them and liked them. And then I found her collection
And
of
then
the
did you guys
rest.
watch the TV series together?
Okay, so she tried, and I was 16, and it's very, very graphic.
Oh
And
yeah,
like that period of
lots of
time,
sexuality in that show.
a lot, and swearing and stuff like that. And before, it was like nothing. It was like TVO kids and like, so she was starting to introduce me. Well, she wasn't trying to. I just wouldn't let her not anymore. And so
Mm.
she wanted to control it as well. So she would put a towel over the screen at times that she thought was not, and turn the volume off. So then I would miss parts when that section was done. So then I just ended up telling my mom I was going to my friend Sydney's house, and we would go watch it at her house. So I could watch the dirty scenes. And but yeah, I hadn't read Harry Potter until I was an adult. Um, Lord of the Rings, I mean, my mom did read us The Hobbit, and again, like there are certain books that were religiously influenced that we were allowed, but if it had witches and wizards, it was very precarious. I was allowed to read Narnia, even though it had a witch because she was bad. But like Wicked, I wasn't allowed to watch or read Wicked. Wizard of Oz was more introduced to me a little bit later. And I was actually in the play before I had ever read the book or watched the movie. Like everything I had read beforehand was like Anna Green Gables and
So I just imagine you going for the audition, like, so what's my character here?
yeah.
Have you not heard about this before? It's like, no, what is my character for this? Like,
That's been a lot. But I think that's another reason why I'm having so much fun with everything, because it's all new to me and it hasn't been new to everybody for a while, and I'm just experiencing it. I read the first book with my daughter. I read it beforehand, like Harry Potter, but I read it with my daughter. She's 9, and we watched the movie, and like she loved it, and she's a Gryffindor and everything. I know, like it's hard within the trans community because the author is
yeah, she's see you
not
next
great.
Tuesday, if we will say that.
Yeah, not a fan of her. But the world that she created did help other people, and I don't think you can throw everything out with that. I can't really go more into it as far as that is. I did do a little dig at it on my Instagram, where I did if the Hogwarts houses were mustaches, like queer mustaches.
Mm.
You know, and I think there are people in the queer community reclaiming.
Yeah. So the thing with that, and I'll like with J.K. Rowling, like she's put out these opinions that, you know, not everyone agrees with, because based off her books, like you'd think she'd be more inclined to like
You would think
be a supporter of, you know, LGBTQ community and etc. I don't know how much she's been influenced by the money that she and the people that she surrounds herself with that, you know, might have changed her, which, you know, is a very dangerous thing to do when you have so much money, in my opinion. But I want to get back more to you because this podcast is about you. You're talking about how like you are still experiencing life as if like new stuff, and you have these 2 beautiful young children that experience new things all the time. How awesome is it to be able to experience that with them together?
the best. It's the best. And because it's like we're at the same place, you know, and I don't think, again, that happens very often for kids and adults to have like a place where they can meet and really relate. And again, because I didn't make them, it's sometimes I find a harder time finding connection places for us. So here, you know, in this realm of fantasy is where we can just, you know, I'm not the parent there. You know, I'm somebody there experiencing the exact same thing in the exact same time that they are. I've never been to Disney World. It's something that we want to take the kids to, and I know I'm going to cry like the whole time. Again, Disney, I don't agree with everything, but it was part of a lot of things that built me as to who I am. And you know, I'm gonna let a little commercialism affect me because, you know, whatever. Like, my kids will love it, and I know that I'm gonna experience it with them in a way that perhaps someone else may not.
Yeah, I feel like you're gonna be crying from like your own self-realization of all your characters that you grew up loving, but then you're gonna start crying seeing the kids' reactions to their characters, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
And your partner's just gonna be like, I gotta take these people home at some point. This is
he's so
at least they're gonna be sleeping when we get back to the hotel.
I know, all 3 of them. And he's always like, so there's the 3 of us, like me and the kids are Scorpios, and he's a Capricorn. I don't know if you know signs at all, but like he's got a lot of energy to deal with here. A lot of emotions. So
and so in speaking with all the energy that you guys have, things kind of seem to be opening up here in Ontario. What's because we're gonna wrap this thing up. Where do you want to put your energy going forward? I mean, you've been through so much, you've seen so much, and you're experiencing so much. Like, is there any will to like want to like share those experiences and put that energy toward positivity?
Yeah, like I guess more so again with the experiencing new things. I I just kind of want to go with the flow in sort of in a direction again with the cons and things like that. Um, but in creation of, I really want to bring their world to life. A lot of the times the kids will come up with stories or their own little fantasy worlds. And, I know that the world has a way of crushing that as you get older. So one of my goals is to write down and start working on world building around their fantasies and their imaginations, so that when they're older that I can give that to them, like give that back to them. So when we go to the park and stuff like that, I'll be on my phone and writing in the notes the things that they say, like, oh, we're in an underground restaurant where the fish are swimming around us and things. And it's my goal in the future to write either a book or a comic that's completely based on their imaginations and their perceptions of the world. So going forward, I'm just going to be observing my kids and writing down everything I can and trying to narrow down what they see so that I can make those come to life for them.
Dude, that's such a beautiful story and such a beautiful way to end this thing, I think. If people want to see your fashion, if you want to see or get involved or help you in any sort of way in terms of like, passing creative ideas, because I feel like you're one of those types that like to like share ideas and everything. How can people reach out to you? How can people find you on your socials, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure that out. I'm not great at social media. I'm not an internet person. I'm trying really hard. It's not natural to me. Um, so I do want to partner with people eventually as to creating a bigger network of people who may not fit into certain categories of specifically cosplay or specifically drag. So on my Instagram, Knick Knack Jack and Jill, um, I've been doing like collaborations with drag artists. So
And
to
they're
keep an eye
fantastic, by
out.
the way. I really enjoyed them.
Thank you. I did take a little hiatus because
Well, I
just a
know, I
lot
know
going.
why you took a hiatus. You had stuff to plan and everything, so don't
Yeah,
worry about
it's
it.
been a lot. But which was kind of annoying because it was Pride Month and I was like, dang it. Because that would have been great. But I have some things planned for because I just view the summer as Pride season. So I have some things planned for July and August. So if people want to reach out to me, I am interested in creating a network of people who um, are more outside of linear ways of thinking about drag and cosplay and makeup in general, or dress up in general, that kind of stuff, because I think there's just so much room for connection in there. And I also am working on two things. I'm working on building my own shop. I've been trying to put it into uh, vision, into reality for a while.
And this is for clothing?
This is for like accessories and things like that to kind of enhance um, people's imagination. I want to do custom designs. So people will tell me what their like fantasy outfit is, and I would create it, design it for them, and then send them an instruction list of how to create it. So that's kind of something that I want to work on. I'm very crafty. I'm very resourceful, so I can maybe help people who may not have the budget to purchase, outright cosplays. And I'd like to guide people as to ways to make their kind of um, costume fantasies come true, regardless of budget. Because I used to dress up when I was like on the street still.
Yeah.
Like, so there are ways of, doing that kind of stuff that are within your means. And I would just love to connect with people in that way and help them.
I
Maybe,
might, I might send some of my wrestler friends your way for like tights designs and stuff like that.
yeah, Please. That sounds fun. I like it.
And then you mentioned there's one other thing you were working on.
Yeah, so I'm actually also working on, I just started working on the designs for my Halloween extravaganza. I'm doing it again this year. It's gonna be big. I'm so excited. I have some crazy costumes, and I'm looking to partner with some other artists or prop makers who might want to incorporate their products into my costumes so that I can help like sell their costumes and also elevate the look in general. So if there's somebody who would like to reach out to me again on my Instagram, who makes, like, I have one person who makes chainmail. So her and I are working together on one specific costume, and then all of the things that will be in the photo will be available for purchase. So if somebody wants me to model in that costume, their wares, I'd love to partner with them on that.
And that, again, the Instagram is, I'm gonna get it wrong, so I'm just gonna
I can spell it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Knick Kni. Oh crap! No, I gotta look at it. I'm not.
Yeah, it's Knick Knack Jack and Jill, right?
Yeah. Oh, here. Let me just.
I think we're good. I'm doing this video. I have it on everything, so I'll make sure people can see it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I have flip-flopped down names just because it is more difficult, but I always think of things in my head and they don't always come out as easy on paper. But
well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Hour. No problem. I've really enjoyed it. And hey, whenever you do another drag or have a show going on, let me know and we'll come on and we'll promote that as much as possible. We'll do another full lengther here, okay?
Yeah, and let me know if you're doing, plays and script writing, and I would love to come to one of your comedy shows.
As soon as things open up in London, Ontario, we're gonna be doing some comedy for sure. I hope.
Right, my brother lives there, so I'll be around.
Oh, perfect. I will let you know if there's a big show happening, and we hopefully can connect in person over a beer or something.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for this. This is great.
No problem, Jack Jill. Did I get it right?
Jack Jill, yeah, it's one of those.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Okay. Thank you for being on.
Talk to you. Have a great weekend.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Knick Knack Jack or Jill Pie. I learned a lot. Sometimes it's just best for me to know, or for anyone really, just like if you don't know, just ask a question. There's no such thing as a bad question, as long as you say it with respect and with politeness, I would say. So yeah, follow them on their social medias. All of them will be down below. The one I follow most is Knick Knack Jack and Jill on Instagram. They have some amazing cosplays, some amazing drag king photographs, and just an overall great set of photographs there if you're interested in that sort of thing. You can always follow me at NeverFullMitchie on Instagram and Twitter. And then I still have to try and figure out a way to out these episodes. So stay tuned next week. We have a really great guest then as well. I've been putting interviews in the bank, so we have guests for lots and lots of days. So we're going to keep this thing going, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So, have a great week. Cheers.